Tell me what will your legacy be?
All right, the Low Post Pod is back for a second week in the summer 22 season. I am one of your hosts, Dan Ruggiero, joined always by the lovely PJ Thomas. Why don't you give us a hello again, Pete?
What's going on, guys? Glad to be back doing the podcast for a second week in a row. So we got some feedback from last week, so we hope to improve on the podcast for you guys this week. Let me put my phone on Do Not Disturb while we're doing the pod.
Why don't you do that? Do you want me to start or you want to start?
No, I'm just saying we're glad to be back and hope you guys like it this week.
All right. So we're going to do a little bit of a week 3 recap, and then we're going to go into week 4, and then we've got a couple other fun stuff for you at the end. I want to start by saying if you were a betting man and you followed all of the favorites on the spreads that we put last week, you would have made money. You wouldn't have made a lot of money. You would have gone 3-2. But we're going to start with one of the 7:00 games. This one did cover the spread. Warriors, Ozone boys, the battle of the 0-2 teams, and the Warriors pull it out. Final score 81-75. Pete, what did you see, if anything?
So I got there. They were the game before us on court 1. So I got there kind of at the tail end, but I did watch the highlights. The Warriors had a bigger lead than the game finished at. The Ozone boys were able to kind of come back a little bit. And I don't believe Kevin Figueredo played this game. So it was an outpouring from Gian as we kind of expected. But the big thing that we had talked about being the potential downfall for the Ozone boys was going to be size and being able to stop Figueredo, and that was eliminated. So I'm kind of surprised at the outcome of the game without him there, but give testament to the Warriors. They're a great scoring team, as we've talked about. And I think they just did a good job of being able to finally get that win. They were a little bit more battle tested. I think they faced the top 2 teams, the only 2 undefeated teams in the league. So they were ready for that third game, I think. They just came to play. Ozone continues to struggle a little bit, but I think they're going to find their rhythm. But testament to the Warriors in this one. They really were able to pull it out and, close it out down the stretch.
Yeah, I will say, if you look at the box score from this game, through all 4 quarters, the Ozone boys won 3 of the quarters. I think it was either the second or third quarter that the Warriors blew them out in. But every other quarter, they were coming out on top. It's just like they let that big run happen middle of the game, and they couldn't really claw themselves back from it. And now you have to wonder what this means for them, because they're sitting 0-3, and they get only the fam next week. And that becomes suddenly a more interesting matchup than I thought it was going to be. Because, they were mentioning this on the post-game show. This is really going to be the test for only the fam, I think. They start 2-0. They get Lob last week, and I think nobody really expected them to do much with that matchup. But now you've got Ozone boys, and this is going to be the real, what are we getting as a product with only the fam? So I guess coming off of 3 losses that they probably shouldn't be 0-3, what are the Ozone boys going to do next week?
So I think this is going to be a really important matchup for both teams. For only the fam, they're going to need to win this game to kind of solidify that they can be one of the top teams in the league. I think a loss for them looks really bad here. Not that the Ozone boys are a bad team, but to go 2-1, then lose to an 0-3 team would kind of not negate everything they've done up to this point, but it would be, you would kind of question it, right? But for the Ozone boys, this is a must-win game. You have to be able to beat some of the top teams in order to win in this league. And I think for them next week is no holds barred. Like, they have to go all out for a win. If they don't, and they're sitting 0-4, it's going to be really tough for them. They're going to be sitting at the bottom of the standings, which they've never been. I think it'll be, if they're able to keep up with Jaron Thomas, then I think they can do it. But this is definitely a must-win game for Ozone. They have to. Last week was the first time we saw them not do the platoon swap where they go 4 in, 4 out. They actually tried to keep the best guys on the floor with each other. Worked a little bit. Obviously, they won 3 quarters, but I think they need to continue to do that with the personnel that they have. So next week is a must-win game for them, and they have to go all out to win that game.
Yeah, I definitely think that. I feel like as far as where we go schedule-wise next, I think we cover all the teams that had 0 losses here before we get to some of the bigger games of the evening. So the next one, we'll go with the 1-1 Werewolves taking down the 0-2 Lincoln 18ers, final score 71-64. We were saying last week, the game against Sin City, you didn't really expect the Werewolves to come out flat and lose that game. So it's good that they came back and got a 7-point win. Connor Harrington was back in the lineup, even though it doesn't look like it paid off as much in the stat sheet. He was the fourth of 4 guys that they had there. So I think anybody is a good body there. But they were able to come out. They took the lead into the half. It got kind of close towards the end. There were some threes that were exchanged in the fourth quarter that made it a little interesting, but the Werewolves are able to pull it out. They don't cover the spread, but it is a 7-point margin. So what do you have to say, Pete?
So speaking of the bets that we made, we made some lines last week. One of them being Heston over, I think it was 24.5. I took the over. And then I also went out, had a hot take and said he was going to drop 40, have a Giannis type game. You said he was probably going to stuff the stat sheet, and he did exactly that. So that would have been a great pick for anybody who's a betting man. Brian Heston definitely willed them to a win last week. But I think the bright spot for the Werewolves in this game is Gino. I think he had 20 something points. Might have been 26.
Yeah, 26.
So 26 points. And Connor Harrington only had 2, but we said in order for the Werewolves to win games this year, Gino's gonna have to show up, and he did, which was huge for them. As long as Brian has somebody else to get some buckets, he's going to be able to will you to a lot of wins in this league. And I think they're going to be just fine. They need more than 4 guys to show up. I know for a fact that can be pretty tiring. We've had that happen before, but I think they're going to be fine. I don't know who their matchup is next week, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but you have to ride the coattails of Brian Heston the rest of the season. You have to just let him do his thing, let him have those big games, and then the supporting cast has to show up. Honestly, just even showing up is enough to get some guys there. So, and let Brian do the rest. And I think when you work through him for the Werewolves, it's a positive, it's a success. We'll see what they can do from here on out, but Brian's going to be the way that they win games this year for sure.
And for the 18ers, I think you look at the stat sheet, it was Ryan Musket and Chris Adams leading the way for them. I think it was like maybe they had 7 or 8 threes combined. The big thing that I think of looking at the box score is, I hope I'm going to pronounce his last name right. I don't know if it's Ethan Cloutier. Through 2 games, he was averaging close to 17 points. And he comes into this game against the Werewolves and he puts up 0 points, and it was like 0 for 11 shooting. So he's a guy that has been putting up some points for them and keeping them in close games to start off. So you got to wonder what the final score of this game could have been if he was hitting. The good thing for the 18ers is, and Joey touched on it earlier this week, you can definitely see that they're starting to get adjusted to the low rims, because they're playing one of those tested teams, one of those veteran teams like the Werewolves, and they're able to hang for 4 quarters pretty much. But I think the good thing for them is this is a little bit of a ricochet shot. They do get bogey kicks next week. So they're starting to play better on the low rims. And I think finally their first win comes next week, which is a good thing for them.
Yeah, I think they've made some steady improvements throughout the weeks here. Ethan Cloutier, that's how I'm going to say his name. He can't go 0 for 11. I expect them to win, especially since he's around that 20 points per game for them, which I said was the magic number for your role play, your key players on your team. So I think it probably was an off night for him, but in order to have success, they're going to need him to show up. Their supporting pieces are really nice. Actually, they have some depth. So again, I'm going to stand by the statement that I think the Lincoln 18ers are going to win a game this year. I don't think they're going to go winless. They're too good for that, even though they're a new team. But I think they're trending in the positive direction, right? And I think that's all you can really ask for in your first season. And I think they're going to be able to grind out a win. You said they face Bogy next week?
They get Bogy next week.
Next week's the week for them to take a shot. So
yeah, I definitely think that.
You have 2 winless teams, but I think the Lincoln 18ers are a much better team than Bogy. And I think they really have a shot to win. They have more scoring all the way around. So next week's a must win for them as well. We said Ozone was a must win. This one's a must win for the Lincoln 18ers.
Mm-hmm. Now, closing out the matchups featuring 0-2 teams, the 9:00 game was Sin City and Bogy Kicks, and Sin City takes them down 90-63. It was Devin Pena again. I picked him when we were doing our 2 early awards. He was my rookie of the year, and he comes through right after that, and he puts up 35 and 20. And I don't really think this game was ever in doubt. I know that I never want to sound too mean when I'm saying these things, But I mean, sometimes honesty is the best policy. So they win by close to 30. What'd you see?
So I had actually said during my takes that I think Sin City is going to blow them out this game. We set a line. I can't remember what it was, but
we set it at 9.5.
Yeah. And I said, I think it's going to be a route much more than that, but we had to set it conservatively. I'm glad I made that pick. I was pretty confident that Sin City was a little bit more of a seasoned team. They have some key pieces. We take them on next week, actually. So it'll be an interesting game. I think they're a pretty good team. Yeah. Devin Pena had a great game. Taj Eddington, those dudes can play. So, I think everyone kind of expected them to win this game. And I think they're sitting at 2-1 now, right? Because they beat the Werewolves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they're moving their way up the power rankings for sure. This game, they definitely needed to win this one. This couldn't have been a trap game for them. That would have been really tough. But I think they have some key pieces. They need to continue to move up from here. They're getting better every week. Unfortunately, we have to face them next week as they're kind of hitting their stride. So we'll see how that game goes. But I think they're going to be good from here on out.
You kind of wish you could have faced them week 1.
Yeah, right.
It would have been a lot better. Yeah, I mean, maybe even not, because I mean the Duyes boys had plenty of rust week 1, so who knows what that matchup could have been. All right, so we're gonna go to the first of the undefeated matchups. Lob City stays undefeated, takes down surprise Cinderella undefeated Only the Fam. Final score of 118-95.
So again, another game that I don't think anybody expected Lob to lose or kind of blow this game. So not a surprising finish to the game. I will say that, you expected a little bit more out of Only the Fam, but, this is going to be their toughest challenge to date for them. So not too surprised here. Again, I question the depth with Only the Fam. I think that's their biggest concern, is just adding more pieces overall to that team in order to stay in a game like that. Because, in order to compete with Lob, you have to have depth, right? That's their strength. Their strength is in their numbers. They can put any 4 guys out on the floor and run you off the court. So it's going to be tough for a lot of teams to keep up with them. I think Only the Fam did their due diligence, and they're going to have a good matchup next week where they can definitely win this game against Ozone. A struggling Ozone team. This is a huge chance for them to prove themselves against a seasoned team who knows the league really well. And I think Ozone's ran into a little bit of a truck as far as like the teams that they faced. But, next week's a good matchup for both of these teams. It's a must-win game for both. I think this is probably the most important game of the night. It might be my pick for game of the week, even though Ozone's 0-3, depending on the matchups for next week, and we'll go over that. But in terms of importance, I would say this is a must-win game for both teams, and I really look forward to watching this one.
And you had mentioned that you said that Lob's strength is in their numbers. I think the big thing here is you look at who showed up to this game. They were missing Vic, they were missing Greg Holt, and they still win by over 30 points. And they have 3 guys score over 20 points. And 5 of the guys that showed up, I think 5 of them were over 14 points. So that just goes to what you were saying. They have so much depth that it doesn't matter who shows up. They have anybody that can beat you on any given night.
Do you have the box score pulled up from that game?
I can pull it up for you.
Yeah, pull it up, because I'm curious as to how my Cody Crawford line ended up settling.
Oh yeah, you're just checking the bets in the morning.
Yeah. Just gonna make sure it's all set. Let's see. Cody Crawford.
Another big thing.
Points.
I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Another big thing that I notice is Jose put up 37 points, and he didn't even start the game.
That's the product you're gonna get with Jose, unfortunately. He's going to be tough to defend every night when he goes in the game. It's very difficult to stop him. They didn't shoot many threes this game, 4 of 14. Not the worst night, not the best night, but obviously they pounded the ball inside, dropped 118 points. My pick for player of the game was going to be Cody Crawford, but he didn't have the 8 3-point barrage that I expected him to have. And Jose did his thing. I mean, on a night where he's dropping 40, it's going to be pretty tough to win. Colin Burns had a good game, which he usually does, and then Nuri was able to play well down low. So, everyone on that stat sheet contributes. So, it's tough to beat them, especially when they're on, and especially when Jose's dropping 40. But I think that's what everyone's expecting now. They've won every year except for one. that being to us in the winter 19 season. But you know what you're getting from them. They're season champions. They're a dynasty in this league. And they're a tough team to beat every single year, every single game. So we know what we're getting from them going forward. And, it'll be interesting to see how they, if they can maintain this undefeated streak throughout the rest of the season. But, I think they're seasoned for it. They're ready for it. They're going to be a team that's, if they're not in the finals, I'll be absolutely shocked. But, we know what we're going to get from them. So I don't think any of this is unexpected. As we said, they can throw any 4 players out in the court and win the game. So we'll see. When they get Vic back, it's going to be really scary. So, they're going to do their thing the rest of the way.
And I will say, before we move on to the last game, the game of the week, I do want to scroll up to only the fam stats. And I got to give a shout out to Jaron Thomas and Tucker Aiello. They had 64 of their team's 95 points, and Tucker went 7 for 8 from 3. So I think that depending on, I don't think you're going to get that every night from both of them, but depending on what they have coming for them next week, that could be still, you already mentioned it, a very good game against the Ozone boys.
Absolutely.
So moving on to our final game of week 3, the game of the week, never a doubt. Duyer's boys take down the halfway Crooks 67-65, real nail biter, but Duyer's joins Lob City as the only remaining undefeated teams. So from somebody that was on the court watching it and playing in the game, tell me what you noticed.
So another off shooting night for us. I think we shot around 30% for the game from 3. Zach had a tough night shooting the ball, as you could see from the live stream. Not his typical self. Usually knocking down a couple threes, but he struggled a little bit. Johnny was struggling a little bit from 3, but luckily when you have as much talent as we do on the roster, you have guys that can carry you if someone's having a bad night. So for us, it was Vinny, a guy who I think should be in the MVP conversation always. He was in it last year. I think he won most improved last year, going from like 10 points a game to 30. But, Vinny was able to carry us for this game, do his thing on the boards, passing the ball, and he shot the lights out, 54% from 3. And they were some pretty critical threes for us. Shane goes down early this game, getting thrown out. Got into it a little bit with Spence. Spence got teched up. Shane got a double tech. And things happen. Obviously, it's just all ball talk, and it stays on the court with us, and we try to leave it there. But that's definitely tough for us, losing a guy, especially when Wolfie was hurt. So we didn't have him. So Nate was the first guy off the bench, then me and Verducci. So it was a short bench once Shane exited the game. And we had to kind of keep the lineup in there that was doing hot and scoring the ball. We down 13 at half. We talked about it at halftime. We just got to do our thing and keep the hot hands out there. And we were able to. Brian Yarch played great, hit some really clutch threes for us. Vinny shot the ball really well, shot like hell. So, and then, Johnny, even on a bad night, is going to give you 20 points and then play great on the defensive end. So I think that's what kept us in it. We never feel as though we're out of a game, even down 13, where it can get kind of daunting, where they're hitting every shot and you're like, damn, we can't get anything to fall. So, keeping that mentality that we can win every game that we play is huge for us. It'll be nice to get Shane back next week for our matchup because we're going to need him. But it was a good game. Credit to Halfway. They played really, really well. Jeff Winchell played great. He's a big body down low. We knew we were going to get from him. Just a little add on here. I did get some heat from Spence saying that last week, the flaw in his game was his 3-point shooting. I walked in the gym. He said, I'm going to light it up for you tonight. He went 0 for 10 in this game from 3, which is what we're going to try to force him to do, is to shoot.
0 for 7, actually.
Oh, what was it? 0 for 7? Okay.
Yeah, I will say, and I did go through the live stream that you put up, not the Snapchats, again, a second time, because I think it was he had 15 points in this game. And I think after the first quarter, he had 7 points. So I think more than half of his points came in the first quarter. So you guys really found the kryptonite, found the antidote. And, he said he was getting kind of chippy with you about you making the comments about him shooting. I don't go every week, so I'll just take it. I mean, it's like, have you watched The Office?
Yeah.
It's like the Michael Scott quote. It's like, fool me one time, strike one. Fool me a second time, strike 3. And It's like, I think 3 games is enough of a sample size in a league where it's only 8 regular season games, that if you spend 2 games back to back at a combined 1 for 17 from 3, we pretty much know what we're going to get from you.
Yeah. And again, I tried to explain that us on the podcast isn't taking a knock at anybody. It's just trying to identify patterns that we see. So when we see a guy struggling to shoot, any team is going to try to take advantage of that. Shane's not the best 3-point shooter. Teams will leave him open on the 3-point line. We know that. He knows that. He might get hot every once in a while, hit 5, but it doesn't make anybody a bad player. It's just trying to, everybody has flaws in their game. Everybody has areas to improve on. That's what we kind of try to take advantage of. We said, let him shoot. If we're going to lose by him hitting 10 threes, then we're going to lose. But we didn't.
The other thing that I had noticed about his shooting performance, because we had mentioned it was 0 for 7 from 3.
Right.
Rewatching the game, outside of 1 free throw, I don't think a single shot that he hit was maybe 5 feet outside the basket. They were usually layups or dunks. Again, I'd love to be proven wrong. If he comes out in like this week or the next week and he hits like 3 or 4 threes in a game and is pretty efficient about it, I'll backtrack. But I mean, as of right now, this is the hand we've been dealt.
No, and I think they definitely need him to start putting up those kinds of numbers in order to make a deep run. I mean, Hansen didn't hit as many threes as it felt like. It felt like he hit 20 because he hit him some pretty crucial spots. But they need that third guy with him and with Hansen and Winchell. So, no, Spence is a good player. I mean, he definitely gave us some trouble in that last game. We were just able to do the thing that we do best defensively and hold them to 15. That was kind of our game plan, let somebody else beat us. And they almost did. So credit to them. But, I think that's also a credit to our defense as well. We were able to find what we need to do in order to win the game. And we just we let halfway shoot. That was our game plan. And it ended up working out well for us. We were able to hit some shots down the line towards the end of the game and, get the win. So I think it's a testament to us to be able to close out tight games because you need to be able to do that to win a championship. But, credit to halfway. They played really great. It was a great game. Absolutely the game of the week. Right pick from Joey. We look forward to playing them again in the playoffs for sure.
So the question I have before we move on to some week 4 forecasting is if you look at it and if you watch this game, it effectively came down to shooting free throws in a bonus. And I think that halfway sometimes has this problem where if they get beat on a fast break or in transition, instead of like trying to get back or just letting the transition bucket happen, they'll as close to clear path foul as they can. And I think towards the end of the 4th quarter, that kind of bit them in the ass because they got into the bonus a little bit sooner than they probably should have. And it gave you guys a little more of a cushion to kind of not ice the game, not put it away, but at least give you some sense of comfortability going into the last minute.
Yeah. I mean, we were shooting free throws with a minute plus left. Luckily for them, Zach was having a bad night, so he struggled from the free throw line as well. I think they put him there like 4 or 5 times. He's going to bounce back. He's going to be fine. But we didn't shoot great from free throw line. They didn't shoot great from the free throw line in a tight game. That's the difference. So luckily we hit a few more free throws, and they didn't. And I think that's really what it came down to. But yeah, they definitely put us in the bonus really early. I don't know why teams like to do that clear path foul. I know they don't call clear paths in the league, but I think when the game ends up being close at the end and you're already in a little bit of foul trouble, it can bite you in the tail for sure. And it did here, I think. So I think, the Werewolves used to do that. They don't do it anymore. They do like to foul early, but halfway has always been a team that likes to foul in the transition and not allow a bucket, which is fine. That's if you want to run that game plan, but and it's definitely a strategy, but I think at some times when the game gets close, it can bite you in the butt. And I think for them, it did here. So I would caution halfway about doing that. I would just say, try to get back on defense, try to play that, or if not, just let the bucket happen and, go get another one because then you still leave yourself some time on the clock. You're not in foul trouble late. And, when the game gets close, if you have to foul with 50 seconds left, then go ahead. But, minute plus, I don't know if I'm jumping into the bonus just right away. So.
All right. So that's all of our week 3 action. As far as moving into week 4 action, I think it's fair to stick with the Duyes boys because we're on the roll talking about them, and then we'll kind of segue into everything else. So 9 p.m. game week 4, Duyes boys at 3-0 get Sin City who are now at 2-1 after losing their first game of the season. What do you think the keys to the game are for both sides of the court?
So I think for us, it's going to be to have a better shooting night again. Obviously, you saw what happened when we played the Warriors and we shot the ball well. We won easily. We need to continue to play our game defensively, get out in transition, dunk, fast break, play through Johnny. I think we're going to be fine. We get Wolf back next week. So that'll be a nice little depth off the bench to have again, because he's a great defender. He's he's a good offensive player. He's kind of an all-around guy for us, and he's a really great pickup. So it'd be nice to have him back, Shane back, so that I'm not one of the first people off the bench, because I think that's not our ideal situation. But we just need to continue to do our thing, and I think we're ready to go with any team. For Sin City, it's going to be playing through those big guys because. Again, and I've said this, our strength is in our guards, and I don't think any team's going to be able to compete with that. But, if their bigs can attack Shane and Nate and, really do a good job down there, then they might have a shot. Personally, just being biased, I think we're going to win every game that we play. But, I think that this is definitely not going to be an easy win for us. It's not going to be, they're not going to roll over. They're not those kind of guys. Again, and we've talked about it, those guys are great dudes. They're probably one of the only teams that we don't ever have beef with. They're cool guys. So it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a clean game. It's just going to be the better team that wins the game. So hopefully it's us. I think it's going to be us, but both teams need to continue to improve on what they're doing right now in order to win this game next week. And I think it's going to be a great matchup. Could be a candidate for a game of the week. It might be just because the team's records compared to the Ozone game that we'll talk about a little bit, but I think we're ready. They're ready, and it's going to be a great game.
Yeah, there are a lot of candidates for game of the week this week, and unfortunately, we do have to give it to one. We can touch on that. That'll be the last week 4 game we cover. Will be the actual game of the week, but it's a shame because you've got Douye Sin City, and now let's move into another good matchup that I think is gonna ensue from this is the Rhode Island Warriors against the Halfway Crooks, and I think for me the big thing for this game is Kevin Figueredo there, because he wasn't there last week. I don't know who they gave his stats to because it wasn't Kevin, but if you look in the box score, it's his name with stats next to it. It was someone else. I don't know who it was, but not having Kevin, you were able to get by against the Ozone boys. I don't know if it's as easy of a task for them to get by the Halfway Crooks without him. So I think if he's there, if they've got their full roster, they've got a very good chance of both those teams leaving week 4, both at 2-2.
Yeah, I think the Warriors are going to have a good matchup here. I think that's another chance for them to win. It's a good game for Halfway to try to win here. It's going to be the battle of the bigs here, Jeff Winchell and Figueredo. If they're both there going at it, you're going to get a great matchup down low. A lot of post ups, not as thrilling as we like to see in the league, but it's going to be a good game. I think Jared and Spence are really going to have to play well on the wing and on the perimeter in order for the Halfway Crooks to win this game. But I don't know if they have anybody athletically that can match up with Gian either. And not taking anything away from Spence, but Gion's a special talent right now in this league. He's playing great. I think he's going to have a good game because I don't know if they have anybody that can defensively play him. But I think it's more of a toss up than it seems like right now. I think it's going to be, if everyone's there, it's going to be less than a 10-point game come, the buzzer going off the fourth quarter. So, I think both teams have a shot to win this game. It's going to be another great game. I'm going to want to watch it. So, we'll see. My pick for this game is going to be, I'm going to take Halfway here. I think they're a little more seasoned, a little more ready to go, coming off of a tough loss, a game that they could have won against us. I think they're going to be ready to go for next week and want to win this one really bad. I think the Warriors might be sitting a little high that they got their first win, not to take anything from them, but I think Halfway's ready to go. And so that's my pick for next week, between that game.
I'm going to actually pick against you. I think full roster, if everybody's there, I want the Warriors. Because I think I was listening to Gion's interview after their win last week, and he was saying like, oh yeah, the chemistry's there. Now we're rolling. Like everything's looking good. He's like, and we're going to surprise some people. And when it gets to the playoffs, it doesn't matter if you're 10-0, doesn't matter if you're 0-10. Anybody can come in any given night. And if you beat every team that you have to face, you win. So I think that full roster there, that's going to be a very interesting game. I think that's another good pick for game of the week, in my opinion.
For sure. And I think it is going to come down to the wire, like I said. I hope Gianna has a great game. So my rookie of the year pick looks really good. I like Gianna. He's a cool kid. I talked to him a little bit last week. He seemed to like the podcast, so I'll give you another little shout out. But I think it's going to be a great game all the way around, and I look forward to seeing who wins.
Okay, so last week we had two games that were both featuring two undefeated teams. So we were going to have some people knocking off, get their first loss of the year. This next game, one of the 7:00 games, is an interesting case where you've got two winless teams and someone's going to walk out with their first win of the year. We've got Bogy Kicks. We've got Lincoln 18ers. I want your insight. I think you already know where I'm going because I already have talked highly about one team and lowly about another, but I want to hear what your thoughts are.
I'm in the same boat. I'm going Lincoln 18ers here. Probably would bet my life on it if everybody shows up for them. Not to take anything away from Bogy, but I don't think they're ready to win a game yet. I think Lincoln's kind of sniffing it. They smell a little bit of blood this week for sure. They were in a tight game with us and a tight game with the Werewolves. They're definitely I think a better team all the way around. They probably smell the blood in the water this week. I think that it could get really ugly for Bogy this game because you have a team that has nothing to lose. And in Lincoln, if they start getting hot, they can get a couple wins. And I think they're going to want this one really bad. I think when watching Bogy play, they get a little heated at each other, pulling each other out of the game. That's not a recipe for success in this league for sure. I think Lincoln's a bunch of guys that like each other. They have some good chemistry, so they're ready to go. My pick is Lincoln here by plus 10, 10 or more. So I think they're going to win this game going away. And again, I don't think Bogy's shown us that they're ready to win a game yet. Not saying that they can't, but they haven't given us any other reason to think otherwise. So my pick's in the Lincoln 18ers here.
My pick is also the 18ers, but I think when you look at Bogy's roster, they do have guys like, what's their best player? Not to be confused with Devin Pina. Their best player is David DePina. So, I mean, he looked like he could fill it up in the highlights that I was watching. Then they've also got the big guy, Mike Evans, not to be confused with the wide receiver. I mean, they've got guys that can do anything on a given night, but I mean, you even said it doesn't look like everything's fully there cohesively as a unit, as a team for Bogy. And I definitely think that over the last few weeks, it has looked like Lincoln has been putting some pieces together. So you can hope that they get a shooting night like, who was it? Adam Musket and Chris Adams, like they did last week on the 18ers. But you also hope you can get a guy like Ethan to actually hit some shots and really help them run away with this game.
For sure.
All right. And now moving on, we'll save the game of the week for the end. Matchup 4 is going to be the 0-3 Ozone boys against 2-1 only the fam. This is yet another matchup that I think is a game of the week contender, even though it's an 0-3 team that's involved in it, because if anybody knows this league, they know the Ozone boys do not play like an 0-3 team.
No, this would be my pick for game of the week because I think it's a must win, like I've said on both sides. Only the fam to keep themselves relevant in the sense of, that we can be a top team in this league and beat anybody. And Ozone to start their bounce back, they got to do it now. You got to prove to the league that you cannot beat up on the bad teams, not only beat up on the bad teams, but get a win against a team that's higher in the standings, which we know they can do. I don't know what the disconnect is for them this year. My pick is Ozone here. I think that they're pretty pissed at this point. They have something to prove to everybody because I think everyone's kind of questioning them and saying, what's going on? This is their chance to turn around. They really need to turn around starting this week. I think they can do it. It's going to be, can they stop Jaron Thomas? If they can't, they let him drop 40, then it's going to be a problem. But I think
if you look at their schedule of what they have coming up, they've got only the fam this week. Then they've got round 3 of the Boy Bowl. The week after that, they've got the Duyes boys. And then they get a week with the 18ers where that could be a interesting game depending on how they keep progressing. And then you get Lob and you close it out with Bogy. So I think you at least get one win this season. But if you lose this game against only the fam, it's going to make the road in the playoffs a lot more difficult for the Ozone boys.
So looking at that schedule, I see one game that they're favored to win. So only the fam, they're not the favorites to win in this game. I don't think anyone would pick them to be the favorites in this game. I can't imagine that they're going to be the favorites in the Boy Bowl. If we're sitting at 4-0 come next week, Lob, they're not going to be the favorites to win. Lincoln's going to be a tight game, so that's maybe a coin flip. And then obviously you pick them against Bogy, but they have a tough road. They have a very tough schedule. They definitely need to win this game. They need to win the Lincoln 18ers game. They need to win the Bogy game to have 3 wins, because I think that won't keep them. If they have a minimum of 3 wins, they won't be last in standings, and it'll be a little bit easier of a road. They've kind of already set themselves up to have a difficult road come playoff time. They're going to have to face one of the top teams in the first round. I mean, they could prove everybody wrong and win out. They're good enough to do that. They've beaten us. I mean, they beat us without the Hogan boys. So, I mean, back to when they had Noah and Jason, but they're a good enough team to do that. So, do I think that they can win more than one game this season? Absolutely. I think they should. I think they should probably be sitting around 2-1, maybe. Right now, but they got to turn it around, and I think this is the week to do it. This is the week to make a huge statement. A new team that is on their high horse right now, being 2-1 up in the power rankings. They're at the top, so this is the week to do it. This must win for them, no doubt. Absolutely have to win this game.
Yeah, and I think for both of these teams, who I need to look at only the FAM's remaining schedule, but if you look at both of these teams, and at the end of the year, they might really try hard to finish around 500. With the talent that they have at certain ends of their teams, we've even seen it with the Duyes boys the year that we won the championship. Those 500 teams on any night, they can compete. So it's just a matter of give yourself the best possible path in the playoffs. And I hate that we're only 3-4 weeks into the season and you're already thinking about it, but the regular season's only 8 weeks. So you really do have to start thinking about that.
Yeah, you want to set yourself up for the best possible road. We saw that in the playoffs with the Celtics, right? They had probably the toughest road all the way through. I know for a fact we set ourselves up to have a tough road the year we won the championship. Luckily, we were able to overcome that. But, you don't want to have to take on those juggernauts early. It's not fun. You get tired. It's, it's a lot to keep going after that. But, they're gonna have to do it. And I think they can. They have the legs to do it. So we'll see how they do the rest of the way. Same for only the FAM. They have to keep winning in order to not have to have a tough road come playoff time. But, we'll have to take a look at their schedule, after this podcast or whatever. But, I think this is a must win for both teams. I don't know how many times I can say it, but they have to. They both have to win. So
now moving on to the actual game of the week for week 4. It is a rematch of the Winter 2019 finals, a game that went to double overtime with the winner winning 89-84. It is Lob City versus the Werewolves.
Yeah, this wouldn't be my pick for game of the week. I mean, I love the Werewolves. They're cool dudes. They're not having a great year. I mean, they're not 0-3, but they're not the same Werewolves of old that was in the finals. Brian's going to have a good game because he always does, but what do they have to compete with Lob after that? And Lob's strength is in their numbers. And right now for the Werewolves, their strength is the exact opposite. Their strength is not in their numbers. They only have 4 guys that show up on a given night. So I don't know how much more Brian can carry them. I don't think they get blown out by 50, but my pick is Lob here. Unfortunately, as much as I'd like to see the Werewolves get a win, I don't, unless Brian gives you 50 points, you're going to have a tough time winning this game just because of your depth issue. I think they've recognized that their depth is an issue. And Connor Harrington's going to have to compete with Nuri down low. Brian's going to get guarded by Jose. He's going to have to guard Jose. And I know Brian can do it because Brian's probably the best defender in the league, no doubt. He's going to have to shut Jose down and hold him to under 15 points. If he can do that, they have a shot. But he's got to literally play the best game he's ever played on offense and the best game he's ever played defensively, which he can do. He can put up 50 points, 15 rebounds, 10 steals. And
you making another prediction here? Are you calling it?
35 for Brian this week.
Okay.
35 points, 12 rebounds, 8 assists, 6 steals, 4 blocks.
You're certainly holding him to a very high standard.
That's how highly I think.
Oh yeah, no, I know. Building off of the point you were making, again, I'm cutting you off again.
That's okay. That's okay.
Building off the point you were making, the big discrepancy between the two teams is numbers. Like they were talking, Brian was saying in after the game last week that most of them were coming from another men's league that they were playing in, and they were all gassed. So even though you did have enough guys to start a lineup, you're not like full energy, 100% ready to go. And you've got guys that have shown up here and there for the Werewolves that are capable of putting up like 16, 18 points. And then you've got a guy like Gino who on a good night, he can put up 20, 25 points. So it's just a matter of what combination of Werewolf basketball are you going to get?
Yeah, for sure. And what I was going to say before is, Brian Heston's the kind of guy where if the Werewolves aren't playing the season, we're going to scoop them up. Like everyone, but my point is like everybody in the league would love to have Brian on their team. So when we speak highly of him, it's because we know what he's capable of. There's not a team that wouldn't take Heston. You would be ignorant to do that. He's just that good. So he competes for the MVP every year, right, with Jose and with Johnny. That's usually those three that are in the conversation. So, that's how good of a player he is, and he needs to be that good this week in order for them to win.
All right. Those are our week 4 matchups. To close it out, we got a little fun segment we're going to do. In honor of the upcoming NBA draft, we have decided to go through and essentially do a round 1 of a Legacy Leagues draft in which every team is going to be able to add a former player to their current roster. So Pete, I know, do you have them pulled up?
I do have our picks pulled up. Yes.
All right. So we're going to go every other. I want you to start off with the first overall pick in this mock draft.
So to kind of give you some insight of how we ordered the draft picks, it's based on current record. So if the season were to end today, this is how the draft would play out. So the first pick would be Bogy Kicks. And our pick for the draft here would be Matt St. Hours, former offensive player of the year, great ball handler, would give another score, to put alongside David DePina, can drop 30, 40 on a given night. So our pick here is Matt St. Hours, probably the best player on Good U, a championship, second place finisher against us. They played a great game against us. So Matt's our pick here, real estate agent of the year. I think that's a great addition for Bogy Kicks.
It's definitely a pick that you don't think of in terms of best player available. You think of like best fit for what the team needs. And you watch the videos of Bogy, and it looks like some of the guys that bring the ball up the court for them aren't as adept with the handle. And Matt definitely was a guy that was like that. So I think team need wise, that's a good addition to Bogy Kicks. Moving on to number 2. As they are 0-3, the Ozone boys would pick number 2 in this draft. And we're going to add an old familiar face. We're going to give them Noah Berg, the former Ozone boy. Pete, I want you to talk about it. We're going to have you just go back and forth here.
That's fine. Noah Berg, one of the best players to play for the Ozone boys in their recent roster changes that they've had. They need to get their big back. He was the top scorer for them, top rebounder, best defender on that team. We think he would fall to 2 here for them because Bogy wouldn't want to take a big here because they have DePina, who's a little bit bigger. We think the Ozone boys reunite here with Noah Berg and bring him back, and there'd be a great pick for them. So I think it's just what they need. A little reunification here would go a long way.
All right. Why don't you announce pick 3 and then I can talk about it. And then I'll announce pick 4 and you talk about it because I know how near and dear to your heart pick 4 is. So
absolutely. I do want to talk about pick 4. So pick 3 would go to the Lincoln 18ers. You want me to announce the pick or?
Yeah, you announce the pick.
Sure. So Lincoln 18ers are going to steal from an old Werewolves roster here for pick 3 and go with Dave Campbell. If you want to put it in 2K terms, they're going to take someone from the all-time Werewolves team and take pre-ACL tear Dave Campbell with the 3rd pick overall. So Danny, give it a little insight here.
Oh yeah. He was a guy that he came in, I think our first year in the league was also his first year in the league. And he was just incredible at scoring the ball. And then like after 2 or 3 weeks in the winter season, he goes away. And we're like, where did Dave go? And they were like, oh, he went to go play in college, so he's not coming back. And then I'm pretty sure he came back for that finals appearance that the Werewolves had. And he was a big catalyst on that offense for them. And then he comes back the second year in the winter and unfortunately injures himself in the second game of the year. We had a fully healthy Dave, and they beat us that year. But Dave is a guy that he would do a little bit of everything. A little bit better of a shooter than someone like Brian was. I mean, I would trust him more outside, even though I would trust Brian, slash and get into the rim a little bit more. But Dave Campbell's our pick. All right, number 4, we have the Rhode Island Warriors. Pete, you're gonna love this. We have the good legend, Brendan Degnan.
6th man of the year. Talks about it frequently.
5th man of the year.
Oh yeah, that's right. 5th man of the year. We talk about it frequently. So Degs and I coached together at EWG. Great dude, one of the greatest guys I've ever met. Shout out to him here, going with the 4th pick. I'll have to timestamp this and text it to him. He listens to the pods just to give me slack. But, I think 5th man of the year, Warriors add some depth with Degs. He's get that Al Horford vibe with his age. Since he's such an old man,
he's got that dad strength.
Yeah, the dad strength, given that veteran presence. He does a good job of showing the dad strength in practice when he's going up for layups, and showing the kids what to do when we're coaching. But, I think he'd be a great pick here. He's a great addition to any team. Comes late to every game, always in neon orange shorts, his Florida Gator shorts or his Duke Blue Devil shorts, because he's a big college basketball diehard. But he's a great dude, great player, and I think he would fit in perfectly with the Warriors here.
All right, give me pick 5.
So Sin City would be pick 5 here, and they need glaring hole in their game is their shooting. And 5, they dial it all the way back to a former dynasty of Boom Shakalaka with Lucas Martin here with the 5th pick. So Dan, you want to talk about Lucas a little bit?
Oh yeah, you mentioned it when you were just speaking about Sin City's needs. I remember I was looking at the stats for another segment we were thinking about doing to close out the podcast. And I was looking at like where every team lacks. And with Sin City, the big thing for them is definitely 3-point shooting. And that's not to say like someone like, what's their point guard? Taj. That's not to say he's a bad guard. I think he's a very talented guard to have in the league. But having someone like Lucas there that can knock down the shot for you will be critical for close games for them. I think even if it's not Lucas Martin specifically, if you can get someone that can knock down threes for you, that is gonna be a pretty scary lineup, I think. But Lucas was one of those guys that he might hit 6 or 7 in a game and really put it away. He was on that team that they only had 4 guys show up and they all had 20-point triple doubles.
Yeah, shout out Boom, Mark Belleville, Jose.
One of the franchises that we really wished was still here.
They're like the if you want to,
a lot of the guys are still here. I mean, like in bits and pieces throughout the league, but I mean, their numbers are dwindling.
If you want to dial it back, give a comparison, they're like the what could have been of the OKC Thunder with Harden,
exactly,
Harden, Durant, and Westbrook. So, they were a dynasty that ended too soon.
Funny enough, pick number 6 is another former Boom Shakalaka. It's also a homecoming of sorts because he played for this team for 1 year and he's returning to the promised land. Pick number 6, we have the halfway Crooks taking Brandon Sweeney.
Yeah, so they take the Red Mamba here, reunite him back with the halfway Crooks and Joey Zacco. Sweeney was a big man, and I picked this because I think they could benefit from a Twin Towers or having another big come off the bench to give Winchell a little bit of a break. We saw that last week when Winchell was off the floor. They struggled to rebound the ball. And I think Sweeney's a big man who can shoot the ball, kind of plays like a stretch 4 in a way. We love our stretch 4s over at the Dewey's boys. And I think this is a great pick for him, for him and the halfway Crooks here. It's another reunification, similar to the Ozone reunification with Noah Berg. But, I think Scal comes back here and fits right in with the halfway Crooks at pick 6.
Give me pick 7.
So pick 7 goes to only the fam, being up there in the
out of the lottery.
7.
Can you believe it?
Out of the lotto, the Legacy League's lotto, and they take WWE up and coming superstar Joey Bones Coro. What do you have to say about that, Danny?
So that was a pick that I feel like a lot of these picks we had both said a name and we were like, okay, this is going to be the pick. This one, I was like, all right, it's pick 7. It's only the fan. Who are you taking? And you were immediately like, give me Joey Coro. I was like, why are you picking Joey Coro? I mean, you're not wrong that only the fam does lack in a little bit of height. And he is a kind of guy that can go and get you any rebound that comes your way. And he's also probably going to be able to jump over anybody else. He's also, I don't know if hothead's the right word, but I mean, he has a flair for the dramatic. He's a semi-professional wrestler. So, I mean, what else would you want on your team other than somebody who's going to rebound the ball, hopefully play a little bit of defense, but also just be one of the craziest people out there?
You know, I think a great team, if they ever want to make another team to add to legacy leagues, consists of Joey Coro and Dexter Lou at the helm of the team. And you get the wrestlers together and just let them go crazy. It's a name
You
we
could
forgot
call it
about.
the New
Actually,
World
Dexter.
Order.
Yeah, we forgot about Dexter Lou. So shout out to Dex if you're listening.
I thought Dexter's still technically playing. He just hasn't played yet.
Is he with? Oh, yeah, he is with Halfway. That's right. Dexter hasn't played yet. So yeah, if Joey Coro wants to come start a team with Dexter Lou, start it back up, get the wrestlers going.
All right, at the 8th pick, this is kind of something that I think is a little funny because it's something that the Werewolves have done in the past where they kind of scalp a good player from a former team that's not around anymore. They were going to do it with Jose and it didn't work out. They did it with Brian Yarsi before he came to the Duyes boys. But this time we're having them do it with former Swish Kebab and former Good U, Randy Butler.
Yeah, one of the Butler brothers. Throwback to his brother Dell as well. Randy Butler was on Good U the year we faced him in the championship. All around great player. Could be the steal of the draft right here at pick 8.
Randy actually was not on that Good U team when we played them.
He was there the year after.
Yeah.
So Randy was there last year. Sorry, the correction there. Good job, Danny. I think could be the steal of the draft here. Randy can score the ball and gives you a hell of a time. Great kid. Fits in with the chemistry of the Werewolves here. I think it gives Brian another guy similar to the Dave Campbell role who can kind of do everything, bring the ball up, take a little bit off of Brian's shoulders. And I think Randy's a great pick here for them at 8. If we did have this Legacy Leagues draft, which I think could be a great idea, Joey, if you want to give us a credit. Well, Danny and I will announce the whole draft. We'll do it like who's the guy that always does the picks for the NFL? He always says he's going to be a bust during the draft.
Oh, Mel Kiper?
Yeah. We could do the Mel Kiper role of the Legacy League draft. So give us the reins. We'll make it happen. But I think the Werewolves take Randy Butler here at 8. And then
Randy Butler, also a star-studded flag football player in his own right. So, I mean, super athletic, no matter what.
Yeah. So then I'll announce the 9th pick because it's going to be near and dear to our hearts for the Duyes boys.
I want you to talk about him too, because you think so highly of him, and then I'll take 10.
Okay.
So
cool.
you announce this one and talk about it, and I'll announce and talk about 10.
So at the 9th pick, where the Duyes boys will be picking, we're going to take Jason LaRosiere, former Ozone boy, absolute stud of a player. Kid was a monster. Fits right into our team, talks a lot of crap when he's out there, but he backs it up, can do everything, freak athlete. I think it'd be another potential steal of the draft here for us to get him at 9, and really add to those athletic wings. He can play down low like a big. He kind of did that role for Ozone, but, fitting him in a team with Shane, Zach, Brian, Vinny, Brian. I'm sorry, Shane, Zach, Brian, Vinny, Johnny. Fitting him with that lineup. Fitting him with that lineup would be great, and I think he'd fit in well with us there. So if we do a draft, we're taking Jason at 9.
And I will say, before I announce the 10th pick, I mean, if anybody's listening and they're as well versed on like the old names as us, and they're like, where is this person? Where's that person? Like, why are you making some of these picks? Just to keep it a little more current, we've kept it at last 2 seasons. So if a guy has played in the summer 19 or the summer 21 season, we made them eligible for the draft. So if you're wondering why, like, wait, what?
I was going to say why guys like Nate Stitchell aren't in here. Right?
Yeah, exactly. That was the name I was going to bring up. But somebody that has been around for a very long time, they have not been around this year. I don't know if it's a Joey Zacco situation where they're on the roster, but they're not playing, or they're just not playing at all. But Lob City would be picking at 10. And at first glance, you want them to just rescind the rights to their pick. They don't need anybody. But if they were going to pick somebody, I'm taking Greg Bell, because Greg Bell was kind of like an auxiliary to Shane Patrick, where he's a big guy. and he has a temper behind him. I've seen him to get thrown out of games in like the first 5 minutes and then just leave the gym.
Yeah, so I think if Shane and Greg Bell were ever to get into it in a game, somebody would get killed. And we love Greg. Greg's actually a really cool dude. I remember vividly, I went up to Greg one time before a game and said, I think they were playing the pizza rolls. And I said, Greg, you're going to drop 60 tonight, huh? He goes, I don't know, man. We'll see. Took his glasses off, went out on the court and dropped 60 points. So I'd like
it was a league record until Jose knocked it off the next year.
The next year.
But actually, for anybody that doesn't know, the pizza rolls were essentially the bogey kicks.
Was it the next year or was it the next game?
What do you mean?
That Jose broke the record. Are you sure?
No, it was a year later.
Okay. I just wanted to double check. But yeah, Jose broke it the next year. But he dropped 60 the night I told him go drop 60. So I'd like to take a little bit of credit for that. But Greg Bell seems like a Lob City player. Talks a lot of crap, can play really well down low, backs it up, big dude. He's got all the tats. He's ready to rock. He's ready to go. Not a guy I would want to square up with in the dark alley. Promise you that. Be a great pick here for Lob at 10.
Yeah, I think of all of the names that we listed out here, there's only one that has actually played with Lob, and that's Joey Coro. He played with them in the winter. But if there's anybody on this list that exemplifies Lob City basketball, I think it's Greg Bell.
No doubt here. So I think that's perfect for them. Joey, this is a great idea. I think we should do a Legacy Leagues draft, turn into a draft league.
Why don't we host the All-Star game draft if we ever get back to the All-Star game draft? Because a few years ago it was just, hey, we're gonna pick the teams and you're gonna show up.
Yeah, Joey, let us host the All-Star draft. Put us on a Twitch stream during the game. Danny and I will commentate it because I'm not going to be in the All-Star game for sure. Promise you that. If I am, someone's a miracle worker. But yeah, we'll do it. We'll make it fun. But I think this was a great podcast this week, Danny. I think we have some good matchups to look forward to. I like the segment that we decided to do at the draft. I think it'll be fun. And I can't wait to see how the games play out this week, and we get to talk about them again next week.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we talked about the week 4 matchups briefly today, and that's going to finish it off for today. But we're going to come back next week. We're going to talk about week 4 after we see how it plays out. We're going to talk about week 5. We'll find another little fun segment like this. We'll keep it spicy. We'll keep it interesting because we want you to enjoy this.
Yeah, and it seems like everybody's liking it so far, except for a select few. Hopefully we didn't offend anybody this week.
Hopefully we get on people's better sides today, but if not, we've still got like 5 or 6 weeks for it.
Yeah, show us something to give us, so we can speak highly of you on this podcast. And, we'll do it. We'll give everybody their due diligence if they show us that. So we have no hatred in our heart for anybody. We want to give everybody the love that they deserve. So, keep giving us the feedback about how you guys like the podcast. Maybe some ideas for some segments you want to hear. We got 5 weeks left, actually potentially more, because we could probably do a podcast during the playoffs. I think they do usually do them during the playoffs. So
yeah, we could do at least one.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you guys wanted to keep hearing me and Danny talk back and forth about the league, let us know some segment ideas you want to hear. And, we look forward to talking to you guys next week.
Yeah, as I said, that's going to wrap it up for this week. Be sure to tune into the Johnson Rec Center. Be sure to tune into the Snapchat. Be sure to vote for Vincent Volpe for Player of the Week before the poll closes.
Give him all the votes.
Yeah, exactly. All right. But anyways, that's going to do it for us this week. Everybody stay blessed.